What is up, YouTube? It is Tati here, and I am back with another YouTube video. In today's video, guys, we are going to be doing some straight backs, y'all. And believe it or not, this is my first time actually doing this style. So y'all know I had to take out the camera and just start filming. Now I'm actually doing the heart design with this. I really like doing the heart design because it gives it a little bit of spice to the hairstyle, and it's very popular these days. So yeah, so this back part is usually where people put knotless braids at, just so that it can be easier to part down the braids and you won't run out of room towards the bottom. So she actually had her hair already cut, so that was a plus for me because that was less work. So right now you just see me molding my heart shape, and you want to make sure you go in with your shine and gem so that you can make those parts nice and crispy. I will leave the products that I use down in the description box below, and I really didn't use anything new, y'all. Just the same old shine and gem and edge booster and mousse, and that's really all. Oh, I used some got to be at the end, and of course oil sheen spray. So yeah, y'all, if y'all have any products that you guys use as a braider that you guys recommend that I try, then just leave that down in the comments below and let me know how it works for you, because I'm completely down with trying new products. But these products that I do use has been doing me very well. So yes, now if you guys want a more in-depth tutorial on how to get this heart part down, then I will leave the video down in the description box below on a more in-depth tutorial on me explaining how I do this heart. However, I will get back to you guys when I start on the straight backs. I actually wanted to give a slight little tip on just doing mini feed-in braids in general. You want to make sure that your hair on the loop or on the loom, the braiding loom, whatever you want to call it, is very, very, very tiny pieces, because you don't want the braid to be big or bulky. So that is the number one tip to keep in mind when you're doing the heart, when you're doing the mini feed-in braids, when you're doing 20 straight backs, or just really small feed-in braids, guys, so that you can be able to get a nice, clean, small little mini braid and it's not too bulky. Always remember, the smaller the braid, the smaller amount of hair you use, and the bigger the braid, the most amount of hair you use. So just try to keep that in mind with knotless braids or feed-in braids or any type of braid. Also, you want to make sure not to keep on feeding in hair consistently after every stitch. Only time you ever do that is if your client's hair is very, very thin and you need to make the braid thicker. However, some people's hair is more thicker than others, so dealing with thick hair, you just want to make sure that you feed in the pieces every other stitch, if that makes sense. You don't have to feed it every stitch, because the thicker the hair and the more hair that you add, the thicker and the bigger the braid will be, and you don't want too big of a braid, too bulky of a braid, and you want the braid to be as thin and as consistent as possible when you're doing mini feed-ins. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. Now right here, I just wanted to show you guys how I didn't like the consistency of the left side of the heart, and I'm just putting it out there that I did take that down and start all over, guys. When I tell you, I cannot stress this enough. Take it down when you don't like it and start all over. Do not be scared to start all over and do it correctly. I'm telling you, you do not want your client to go out looking like who did it and why. So you want to be able to set that example just in case somebody else is looking at this person's hair and it's just like, oh girl, who did your hair? You don't want them to be like, oh, who did your hair? You know what I mean? You want them to actually have a really good impression on the style. So I definitely did go back and take that down. Now onto the feed ends. As you can see, I just parted my client's hair down the middle, and now I am starting on the second part to form the first section of my first mini feed in braids. Now this is something new for me, y'all. I don't usually start in the middle. I usually start from the right ear or the left ear, but I did hear from a YouTuber named Panna that if you start from the middle, then you'll have a less likely chance of having slanted braids, if you know what I mean. And I've had that problem before where my braids weren't just like straight back, they were like slanted backs. So to avoid that, I actually did start the part in the middle, and it definitely worked wonders. The style actually turned out very well and everything was even. So yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing this method from now on. Thank you, Panna. So right here, I just parted a little tiny piece, and this part was actually short, so I actually did start by feeding in here at the root. But if y'all haven't noticed yet, I have my little nails on me because, you know, I don't have any nails. So doing stitches, I definitely have to glue on some pointy almond shaped nails. And yeah, you just start to stitch feed in these braids. And of course, you always want to remember that you do not have to feed in hair after every single stitch. You want to feed in your hair based off the consistency of the braid. And if you feel like you need more, then add more. And if you feel like you don't need any more, just continuously keep braiding down until you reach the end. So yeah. Okay guys, so for this particular braid, I did want to point out how instead of feeding in hair in the very root or the very beginning of the braid, I actually started to braid her real hair about 4 to 5 times down, and then I started to feed in hair, and I did that on majority of the braids. And the reason why I just wanted to point that out is because it is very important to do that, because you want your braid to start out small in the beginning and then big, or like gradually to like work its way up to its actual consistency towards the end. toward the end, I'm just braiding the rest of her hair down, and I also started feeding in pieces here and there because she wanted her braids to be longer. Okay, so this may be a little hard to explain, but I'm gonna try the best that I can. When I was done braiding her hair down, I kind of noticed that like the braids were very, very spaced out and not singed in together, if you know what I mean. And I kind of wanted to tighten it up or like kind of put it all together. And I see a lot of people on Instagram, they'll like use like a needle and thread to like kind of sew it together and everything. However, I did not have a needle and thread, so I just took one part of the braid and took like small pieces out of the braid. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the second to the last braid and I'm going to connect those small pieces to that second to the last braid so that I can like connect the braid together. That way the braid won't be so spaced out. And the reason why I feel like the braids were spaced out was because she did have like a part of her hair shaved, and you know, like towards the bottom of your hair gets like, the hairline gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, this time I braided it down to where the hairline was a little bit more longer. So yes, I decided that I wanted to connect that to make it look 10 times better. So I hope you guys understand what I'm saying when I explained that. It was really hard to explain, but yes, that's the best way I can explain it. And so now I'm just going in with my mousse at the end, and then I'm going to braid down the rest of the hair, and then I'm going to, of course, dip it and do the finishing touches. But yes, that is all for this YouTube video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you give it a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you like my content. And I will see you guys in my next YouTube video.